Hello, everyone, and thanks, Sylvain, for this great invitation to talk during the Eden Summer Institute. It's just amazing to have this opportunity, and I hope you will all find it interesting or that it will raise some questions. I guess today I'm going to talk about a sort of passion uh, related to ornament. The talk is called Wallpaper Paradise, and this is because Sylvain has invited House of Bricoleurs, um, which is the architectural practice I run with my colleague and friend Elliot Rogosin. We were invited to join the Eden Summer Institute this summer. Elliot was able to go and to travel and to be in the town last week, where he discovered lots of things and did a few things. And I'm presenting to you today sort of some reflection on wallpaper and this sort of beginning of a collaboration for Elliot and I following the findings at Eden. What House of Bricoleurs is, it's a young emerging architectural practice. We work in the UK. We have done one project in France, in Europe, and we hope to expand soon to Europe. Our expertise is in working with existing building, often with self-builders. As you can see, the picture here shows us at work. We're very hands-on, aware of climate change, and we work with natural materials, existing building and digital making to try to practice differently and make things better if we can. So today I will try to create loose connections between different personalities and peoples and creators. The first one is Charlotte Perkins Gilman, who is a writer, American writer from the end of the 19th century, mostly based in Pasadena, California, but not only. The second personalities we're going to encounter is Annie Albers. She was an artist and ended up in the United States as part of her second career, and she was part of the Black Mountain College from 1933 to 1949. And we will also try to learn and to know a bit more about Sam Macmillan, who was active in Winston-Salem from the 80s to, let's say, a few years ago, 2018, until he passed away. So these are loose connections. Here we can see a close-up on a map where you see where the Black Mountain College was near the Lake of Eden, and then the Red House and where basically Eden is. We are going to try to. I'm going to try to link a little bit to Eden as a place and as a town. And it might echo some sort of passion and collaborative research I have with Elliot about outsider architecture, possibly through this question of ornament. I guess we're interested in ornament because they are a form of camouflage. Um, they often resonate with question of identity politics and are also just very, very beautiful. So the way it's going to, so I'm going to introduce those three people, create those connections, and show you some early findings done by Elliot and initial ideas that he had there, and some also first translation and next steps. So basically, when Elliot sent something after going to Eden, I have started to respond to that, and we hope that we will keep working in that manner, which mean that there can be misunderstanding, which we're also very interested in. So the first character we're looking at is Charlotte Perkins Gilman. She's one of those early American feminist activists and writers. She wrote a few novels and books. She was a very important activist at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. Her most famous book is called The Yellow Wallpaper. Was published in 1892, and it's a short story, so it's very, very quick to read. about, and it's quite a sad story. It's about a woman that is driven mad by the fact that she's forced to a room where you have this yellow wallpaper, and she becomes quite enticed by this wallpaper, and it becomes a place, and she sort of become the wallpaper. So it's very well written. It's extremely intriguing and a quite terrifying story. Um, So, for example, here is a piece of text which describe how in the book the wallpaper is actually never described. So it you get glimpse of it through the reaction of the narrator, but you never really have the possibility to have an overview. You understand what the wallpaper does to the person and to her fear, but you cannot really visualize it through the written description. And so it's working with fragments to try to create this idea of a, a wallpaper that is moving. What Gilman is referring to is this sort of vogue of wallpaper at the end of the 19th century that becomes really to go in every houses, basically, even if it's a technique or a type of covering, of wall covering that exists in the 16th century. It really sort of took hold of our homes at the beginning of the 20th century, and they are everywhere in hallways, kitchen, bathroom, reception rooms. And these are things like this. That's a very famous, that's a very common and wallpaper called Sleeping Beauty, which was very common in England at the end of the 19th century. And that was designed for nursery, which happened to be the room where the narrator of the yellow wallpaper is confined. So it could have been a paper like that she's looking at. This type of wallpaper are coming from a British tradition of looking at ornament from exoticized ornament from, let's say, the Chinese, let's say China or Japan. Of course, it's an exotic view on it. They are completely transformed and adapt. The two photographs you're looking at are from the Royal Pavilion in Brighton. So that's the beginning of the 19th century, with some very all over type of pattern, which you can see are not the same all across the room. And here, what's quite interesting is that actually what you see on the left, um, everything is a wallpaper. There is nothing that is made with an object. So it means there's a lot of illusion, which might be what the narrator in the yellow wallpaper is talking when she talks about a moving wallpaper that creates so much anxiety. Moving on to Annie Albers, and we'll see where those links are going to start to make sense, I hope, at some point. We have here someone who left Europe in 1933 and find refuge at the Black Mountain College when she arrives in the US. She's an artist who worked with textile and painting, and she will lead with her husband, Joseph Alberts, the weaving studio in the Black Mountain College for a few years. We can see here a photo of the Black Mountain College at the time, who sits on the bank of the Lake Eden, a really, really beautiful location not far from Eden. What Annie Albers will try when she's teaching at the Black Mountain College is a sort of like process-driven teaching and testing. She sort of summarized it by saying it's where thought can be tested against action. And so she designed a series of weaving exercise that are quite distinctive and quite unique. They're based on the repetition of the same, or let's say similar element, but it's, as you can see here, she does it using, it's very simple. She uses a paper and then she pricks the paper and she creates those motifs which are sort of repeated but never the same. And what creates the fascination of those motifs and those patterns is that they are not exactly the same. They're similar but not exactly the same. She does quite a few of those, and there are some that are kept at the Annie and Joseph Albert Foundation, where you see variation on the size of the holes that is created in the paper and how it created geometric but also uneven irregularities. And this will lead in translation into, let's say, her main technique, which is weaving textile, such as one of those much bigger pieces of art or objects. This is 1 meter 50 by 1 meter approximately, where you can see that the exercise have actually sort of generate patterns. And we come here to our last character, Sam Macmillan, who was active near Eden at the town called Winston-Salem, which is not too far. He's an interesting figure who started in the 1980s to paint furniture and to decorate interiors, let's say, following a commission from one of his clients. And you can see it's super colorful. And its characteristic is this repetition of something similar but never the same, which are those dots that have different size and that will cover all surfaces of the furniture. What he was doing is that he was basically getting second-hand furnitures and then transforming them by painting them, giving a first coat and sometimes painting landscape or funny things. And then he was adding the dots on top of it. So he was saying a dash of colors painted by Sam, as you can see on that image on the right. And you can see very different types also of color schemes and a lot of variation from landscape sort of motifs to different sort of more abstract motif. Here he's outside of his shop with two furniture that is taken out, and you can see that it's also all over. There is not a space that is not painted, and that it's also related. You can to identity. You can see there is an American flag. There are another flag. Yeah. And so we started the residency with Elliot going to Eden, and I sent a postcard because I couldn't join. And the postcard is saying, "Find Sam the Dotman," which was a nickname given to Sam Macmillan. Find Sam the Dotman if you can. We know that Sam is dead since 2018. But he had a gallery, he also did a lot of things, and we wanted to know if there was a possibility to find something. Elliot was not able to find anything, I think, but he found something else, which is also a form of camouflage, or let's say of a pattern that also multiplies, but is also never the same. This is probably you're familiar with this. This is kudzu, which is an invasive plant coming from Asia, which has been in the United States now for a while, and it's invasive, so it can spread very, very easily. It's difficult to remove. And it has been nicknamed the invasive wine that hit the south. So it has really spread across the south of the United States because of the climate. It seems to be very, very happy there. So here is a photograph taken by Elliot where you can see how the kudzu has sort of transformed the landscape by being an all-over carpet that sort of changes shapes and silhouettes of things that it's cover it, slowly covering everything. You can see the extent of the lawn that the residents are still sort of cutting and maintaining, and you can see in the background how the kudzu has gone and has covered everything from plants to maybe structures to the ground. So the first ideas that Elliot has sent since he was there last week is a drawing of this plant made by Elliot of the kudzu inspired by the grammar of ornament of Owen Jones. This is going back to the 19th century, so maybe in the world from which the wallpaper pattern that frightened so much the narrator in the yellow wallpaper, this is something um, that might have been part of the cultural world of that person. So Owen Jones was an architect, an historian, let's say architectural historian as well, and critic of the time of the mid 19th century, super interested in ornament, and he published this absolutely crazy book called The Grammar of Ornament, where he sort of put all his design theories about the best example of ornamental decoration. And it tries to formulate a design language. So, for example, in that page, it's a lot about things overlapping and taking all over the page, which is something that Elliot has tried to also emulate in his own interpretation of the kudzu. Of course, in the grammar of ornament, it's about all ornament all across the world, and it's especially is attracted by Owen Josin interested by the Middle East at the time, and you have all these very wonderful and enigmatic pages of a series of very, very colorful, abstracted ornament completely taken out of their context. So when I received this, I thought, okay, I can use it as a point of departure and take it literally as maybe a piece of wallpaper or pattern and see if I can apply one of the exercise of Annie Albers. So I decided to sort of adapt Annie Albert's exercise by mixing it with another technique, which is called prick and pounce, which is a technique, a simple technique to transfer pattern onto something else, onto another material. So, for example, you have a drawing, a painting, or a drawing, and it has a pattern or not, or a figure, and you want this to be replicated on a wall, if you're making a fresco, for example, or on a piece of cloth, if you want to decorate your clothes, or on a curtain, or things like that. So it's a technique that's called prick and pounce because you prick the paper that you will use to transfer, and then you pounce it against the new surface that where you want to transfer. This is a technique for which I've seen the result from clothes at David Parr House in Cambridge. David Parr was a Victorian worker, so he works in the 1880s, 1890s, at the same time as the Yellow Wallpaper is published. And he was working on art and craft project as a worker, and he was replicating for clients some of the motif of William Morris, for example, or other motif from the art and craft movement. And on his spare time, he completely decorated his own house. So this is what you see on the side. He has used the prick and pounce technique to actually transfer the motif, and then he's painted it straight on the wall. And you can see he uses it to have text, for example, or sort of abstract ornamental motif. So, using the drawing sent by Elliot of the kudzu at the manor of Owen Jones, I started to brick, let's say, using this tool from bookbinding, which is the one which has a big holes. So thinking of Annie Albers and how she's also using variation in the repetition to create the ornament and the irregularities. It might not be obvious, but I did try to have the similar gesture and a similar space in between each big dot, for example. It's actually really difficult. I guess you need to be very, very precise with your hand, which is a craft that someone like David Parr would have really mastered, and which is not my case, because with architects we usually work more with computers. And then I used the Dremel, which is this tool that allows you to use very, very thin drills. And this is a 0.05 thin drill bit, which allows us to do these tinier, smaller dots to sort of try to define the rest of the detail of each leaf that Elliot had drawn. So here on the second image shows something that is not finished. You can see here I haven't started to translate the lines into dots. Here it's a photo taken against the light of the paper, so you can see how the holes, the light's going through the holes basically that have been created, and you can see the difference in the forms of the holes, their size, and etc. And here I'm starting to test how I'm going to pounce. Usually you would be using a pigment, a series of crushed pigment in a close. That's a traditional technique for frescoes or used by David Parr in his house. And here I'm using a pen because I want to test it first and I'm just being lazy. Then I moved on. Then I was thinking about the red house in Eden because I was not there, so I was projecting what is house, the American house. And in my back garden in London, I have something very British, which is a fence made out of timber, which is sort of a very far sort of reminder of the timber cladding of the red house. And of course, I started to paint a part red and to try to pounce the pattern back onto the fence. As you can see, also there's one part of the fence which has a vine as well, which is native to Great Britain, which is partly lively, as you can see on the side. We had a very hot summer. And here is the result of the motif and the pattern having been tested for the first time. So that's how, in a way, for the moment, I have managed to connect a little bit the passion of dots of the dot of Sam Macmillan with the exercise of Annie Albers, thinking about a sort of invasive parasite that is starting to camouflage or hide the landscape or the town of Eden. Bear with us or bear with me that these are more like a creative endeavors and tests, and sort of like you have here an entry into our creative process. And that's also a way to sort of think about the Black Mountain College, because what I know about the way they were working together is that process was at the center of the teaching, and that the result and the outcome was maybe not so important as taking part in the process. And I guess the exercise of Annie Albers is actually based on the process. of this creating those irregularities by having those repeated gestures. And as you can see for the future of this, I think because we are architects at the end of the day, this is a way for us, thanks to Sylvain and to the Eden Summer Institute, to sort of take a break and have time to reflect on bigger questions and what is interiors, what, you know, what is wallpaper, what is the role of ornament. And I guess that we will try to push that a bit further by trying now to, because we really did not have time to talk, so I was just responding to something while Elliot was already doing something else, and he didn't really have time to see what I did, and I didn't have time to see what he did. So that now that we have those things together, I think we would be able to develop something that might be either a product, you never know, a wallpaper, maybe, maybe not, or a technique that people, because we're very interested in that, in working with people that already have some knowledge when we build. So maybe it's also a kit to do prick and pounce at home or something like this, sort of traveling with this pattern and thinking of the Black Mountain College sort of legacy in a way. So yeah, I might have gone a bit quick, but that's where we are now. And yes.
Yeah, thank you very much,